Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 9-game slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. If you tuned in yesterday for Free Friday, I think you would have done pretty well. I had mentioned, I do have multiple MLB DFS packages over there on Patreon. MLB DFS packages, and that was free yesterday. And I did a little bit of analysis on, how my sheet performed. And I think I did pretty well overall. Sean Murphy with a home run, Matt Olson with a grand slam, Dylan Moore went deep, Marcus Semien had a solid day, Charlie Blackmon hit a walk-off grand slam, Avisel Garcia had a pretty good day. And then you go over to my cheat sheet that I had yesterday. Matt Olson on FanDuel killed it. Rougned Odor hit a home run. Marcus Semien pretty well overall. You can see Sean Murphy again, and then I had Anthony Bemboom as a cheap option catcher on DraftKings, and he hit a home run. Ryan McMahon hit a home run. Rougned Odor hit a home run. So, yeah, I don't know. Just a little reflection on, how I did overall yesterday, with Free Friday and giving you guys access to my sheet and what I provide every day over there on Patreon. And I think I killed it, and I think I've been working really hard on that, and I think I can provide value to you guys. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start breaking down this slate today. And if interested, you can go ahead and check out my MLB Patreon packages over there on Patreon. I also have a bunch of other stuff in the link in the description, such as merch and so on. So yeah, felt good about that. We're going to go ahead and start breaking down the slate today. You can follow me over on Twitter at KJK_DFS. And let's get into it. As always, the very first thing I like to do is go ahead and sort my sheet by K rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. And when looking at the guy that tops the slate today in K rate, we have a young, recent breakthrough prospect in Tejay Antone, I believe is how you pronounce it. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. He has a 25 innings pitched sample size. He has a 33.3% K rate. The ERA this year is looking very good. He's got a very good swinging strike rate. The ground ball rate's looking good. The hard hit rate's looking good. Just overall, he's been really solid against righties. He's very good. He's got a 42.9% K rate against righties. Obviously, limited sample size, but that's very impressive. And then a 24% K rate against lefties. So I do think this Antone's a guy that we could have interest in today. Definitely someone to keep an eye on, moving forward. And when looking at his opponent today in the St. Louis Cardinals, you can see that he does come in as a plus 120 underdog, so he's not favored to get the win in this game. However, with that being said, they're only slight underdogs, so he could definitely possibly come out on top of the win. And he is 6'9" on DraftKings, so he's right in the mid-range. He's a guy to probably take a chance on here early because he's looking real good, and this might be the last time that we can get him at this price tag. So, very first guy that I have to mention, definitely have some interest in him today. A second guy on the list is definitely the top option on the slate in Zach Gallen. Zach Gallen taking on the Seattle Mariners, a very good matchup for him. He has a 28.4% K rate, a 2.6 ERA, a 12.6 swinging strike rate. And the fly ball and the ground ball rate, gets a little iffy, so that could be something that you could hold against him. But, I mean, it's Zach Gallen. Overall, he's just been a real good pitcher. He's a stud. He's got 29.8% K rate against righties, looking very solid across the board in the hard contact over there. And then he has a 27.1% K rate against lefties. So, yeah, just really not many holes to Zach Gallen's pitching game. He's solid all around. And he gets to take on a Seattle Mariners team who isn't very threatening, and he's a 167 favorite. So Zach Gallen, definitely the top option on the slate, and his price reflects it. He comes in at a 9.4K price tag. Take it on the Seattle Mariners, and he's definitely my number one option. Go ahead and get him in your lineups at all costs because he's the number one guy today. Definitely sticking out. Third on the list is that in Rich Hill. Rich Hill doesn't, so I will go ahead and say, this is when pitching gets real thin on this slate, so I almost think it's very clear cut with who you want to play in your lineups, but we do have some other matchups that are very good, so we can take some shots on some guys that are in very good matchups. So we're going to break down these next two guys and then kind of get into more of the matchup, strategy. So first we have Rich Hill. He has a 27% K rate. The hard contact stuff is really the only thing that kills him. He's got a 28.6% K rate against righties, and then you can see the hard contact once again standing out as a negative. But against lefties, he's very good. It drops down to a 21.8% K rate. So the strikeout rate's up against righties, but he struggles with the hard hit rate. And when looking at his opponent today in the Cleveland Indians, you can see they only have a 4.12 implied run total, which is, to me, showing Rich Hill some respect. He's at 7.3K on DraftKings. And I do think that he's an option today. Right in the mid-range, just purely based on his stuff. His matchup isn't the greatest, though, which is the That's what kind of dampens the appeal of playing Rich Hill. It's the matchup, which we'll get into some guys and some better matchups after Rich Hill. But definitely third on the slate as far as stuff. And then you definitely have to have interest in Julio Urias. However, once again, matchup is going to limit the appeal. He has a 13.3% swinging strike rate. Very impressive. He's got a 25.6% K rate, a 23.9% K rate against righties, and then a 29.2% K rate against lefties, which is very impressive. But for some reason, the ground ball, the fly ball, and the hard hit rate, he really struggles against lefties. So something that I think could be interesting is going ahead and playing a left-handed bat against him in tournaments, but we'll get to that when we get to the bats. But when looking at Urias's numbers, or I'm sorry, the Vegas lines for Urias today, he does come in as a 144 favorite. So Vegas likes him to pick up the win, taking on Framber Valdez. And I do think that he's definitely an option. It's just the matchup. These Houston Astros don't strike out, and that's the thing. So you're going to have to pick matchup or stuff, because now we're going to get into matchups where we're playing some guys that don't have quite as good stuff, but they're in better matchups. So Ronaldo Lopez is the first guy to mention. Actually, you know what? No, let's mention Kyle Hendricks first. So Kyle Hendricks gets to take on the Milwaukee Brewers, who surprisingly have been very bad this year as far as a hitting team. And Hendricks is just a really solid pitcher across the board. He is more of a good real-life pitcher rather than a fantasy pitcher, because his strikeout rate's low, and he's just a sinker ball thrower that keeps the ball on the ground. He throws changeups, that type of deal. And he does come in as a 127 favorite, and he's at 8.7K. So he's priced up. He would probably be my preferred option of the guys we just talked about based on matchup, because these Brewers have had a high strikeout rate, and I think you could throw him in some lineups. But when things get really interesting is when we get down to Ronaldo Lopez, and we're talking about taking on the Detroit Tigers, the worst team in the league in strikeout rate. And Ronaldo Lopez has a 19.9% K rate. His ground ball, his fly ball, his hard stuff's all terrible. He's not really the most talented pitcher. He's a 21.7% K rate against righties and an 18.2% K rate against lefties. So he's not the most talented pitcher, but it's the matchup. Taking a quick look at my team hitting data sheet that I offer over there on Patreon, if we go down to the Tigers, you can see they have a 26.6% K rate. And then against right-handed pitching, they have a 27.8% K rate. And it's just a great matchup. Anytime the Tigers are facing a right-handed pitcher, you're going to want to have interest in that pitcher. We would prefer a guy with a little bit better stuff than the guy that we're talking about, Ronaldo Lopez. But we do play daily fantasy sports, and there are price tags attached to these guys. And Ronaldo Lopez only comes in at a 5.9K price tag. So I do think that he's someone that we could take a risk on today, because he's cheap. He gets the best matchup you could ever ask for. And while the Vegas lines aren't out yet, I have a feeling that he's going to be favored in this game, because the White Sox definitely trump the Detroit Tigers lineup. So I have a feeling the White Sox are going to be favored. I have to keep an eye on that. But Ronaldo Lopez definitely got to have interest in. And then the last guy that I have to mention is, once again, not the best pitcher as far as stuff is concerned. It's really just matchup. And that guy is right here in Trevor Williams, taking on these Kansas City Royals. I had a lot of interest in playing the Royals last night. But tonight, I think you could go ahead and play Trevor Williams. I should say you could probably play the Royals too, because, as I said, not good. But there's some strikeout potential here. And when looking at Trevor Williams' numbers, 18.3% K rate. The fly ball, the walk, and the hard hit rate's pretty good, though. That would be his strength. And then he has a 22.3% K rate against righties. Orange and green across the board type of deal. So, against righties, he's pretty solid. And then against lefties, it does drop down, because he only has a 13.9% K rate. He doesn't really excel at getting left-handed hitting out. So we do prefer to target him against right-handed heavy lineups. And when looking at the lineup that these Kansas City Royals are going to roll out today, you can see that they do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 righties in that lineup. And their lefties are, not the most threatening bats in the league. Adalberto Mondesi has been very hot as of late. He's on a ridiculous streak real quick here after struggling for most of the season. So, maybe a little bit of a disclaimer there. But I do think that Trevor Williams is a guy you could have interest in, and he's not the safest option. I had discussed, a guy like Zach Gallen I really like. I would prefer to pay up for a guy like Zach Gallen, even a Kyle Hendricks taking on the Milwaukee Brewers, who strike out a lot. But I have to give you guys some salary relief options. And those are my guys for salary relief today. I think you can stick them in your lineup and pay up for some of those elite bats and hope things go well for you based on the matchup, and they can go out there and put up a decent performance for you. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down some bats that we want to target. Enough talking about the pitching. We want to figure out the bats we're going to want to get in our lineups. And looking at bats that we want to target, I always like to go ahead and sort my sheet by Sierra. It's a good way of figuring out how good a pitcher has been so far and how good they will be in the future. Skill Interactive ERA. And the first spot that stands out today is Dakota Hudson taking on the Cincinnati Reds. Dakota Hudson has been very good in the ground ball and the fly ball rate, but everything else he's terrible at. So it's a little bit weird. You don't see that very often. And when looking at his splits, the same type of deal. He really excels in the ground ball and the fly ball. And against lefties, the same thing. A lot of hard contact, but really good in the ground ball and the fly ball. So he does really struggle against left-handed pitching, though. If you look over here, he has a 4.13 slugging, a 43.8% hard hit rate. Just not really good stuff. And though he has a bad walk problem as well. So I would say, this Cincinnati Reds team definitely has some lefties that we could be interested in. And, most notably, Joey Votto, Brian Goodwin. It's unfortunately it's looking like Mike Moustakas isn't going to be in this lineup, and he would be a guy that I'd be all over today if he was. But we could play Akiyama at the top, Joey Votto, Brian Goodwin, and then just the guys with power overall. So Nick Castellanos, Eugenio Suarez, and Aristides Aquino. Those are the guys you're going to want to be playing. And then Freddie Galvez is a guy I'll definitely have a lot of interest in. I think Freddie Galvez is one of my favorite guys to play in daily fantasy sports because he never gets ownership. He fills in a shortstop position for you oftentimes, and he can kind of slug for a shortstop. So I do think he's someone to have interest in today. I definitely have interest in Freddie. And then second on the list of spots that we're going to have to target, I'm just going to go right to it because Coors Field is definitely the top spot of the slate. These guys are in a ridiculous good spot. And, first we're going to break down these Colorado Rockies taking on Jaime Barria. It's scary good. He has a 35.4% ground ball, a 45.1% fly ball. And I said scary good. I mean scary good for the bats. Scary bad for Jaime Barria. It's just terrible across the board. Righties really struggles. He has a 5.49 slugging. Not going to get the job done. A 49.4% fly ball, a 33.2% ground ball. And then against lefties, he's actually pretty respectable. So, I say it's really bad. It's really bad against right-handed hitting. But with that being said, this Colorado Rockies team, who are the guys that we want to target at Coors Field? Trevor Story, Nolan Arenado. They're always the guys we love. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to want to get these guys in your lineups at all costs because they're going to have big days. This is just way too good of a spot. Scary good spot for them. And I don't really care how priced up they are. They're both at 5.8K on DraftKings. It's going to cost you, but they're top priority. I really want them in as many lineups as I can fit them in today. And I can't talk about them enough because it's just looking scary good. And then you have some salary relief options below them with Kevin Pillar, Matt Kemp, and then Garrett Hampson. And then you could throw in Ryan McMahon, who I was high on yesterday, who does have power. It's just the problem is we talked about Jaime's splits, and he's not bad against left-handed hitters. However, with me talking about how high scoring this game is expected to be, I don't really think Jaime's going to be in this game long. So really, you could throw in these lefties and feel fine about it. I would prioritize the righties with power. So, Arenado and Trevor Story are my 1A and my 1B. But this Coors Field spot is ridiculously good today. And with that being said, we have to talk about Kyle Freeland taking on these Los Angeles Angels. And Freeland's a little more respectable, but still, his numbers aren't going to get the job done in this matchup today at Coors Field. A lot of orange and yellow going on. Against righties, he gives up a 451 slugging, not good. 16.8% K rate. And then against lefties, it bumps up to a 26.1. So once again, both of these pitchers really, Freeland, it makes a little more sense because he is a left-hander himself, but they both excel against left-handed hitters. So just load up on the righties in Coors Field today and feel great about it. So, Anderson Simmons, Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon, Justin Upton, this whole lineup is designed to hit left-handed pitching. These Angels, anytime they're against a lefty, I love it. Max Stassi crushes lefties. Joe Adell, the top prospect. Albert Pujols crushes lefties. Just a ton of interest in these bats today. And, 1A and 1B, Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon. I think that goes without saying, but those are top priorities. My top four hitters on this slate, without a doubt, are Trevor Story, Nolan Arenado, Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon. those are the guys you want in all your lineups. Get at least 2 of those guys in every one of your lineups if possible. Just in ridiculously good spots, and I think I made that clear. And then I would say, this bottom of the order really does provide some good salary relief in Albert Pujols, Joe Adell, Max Stassi. All these guys do crush lefties, and they're in Coors Field, and they're cheap. So they might be highly owned, but I don't care. Get them in your lineups. You're going to love it. And that's my breakdown of Coors Field. And Coors Field is so much above these other spots on the slate, it's not even funny. So this is where we're going to have to kind of get a little contrarian, figure out a couple more spots that we want to have interest in. And, my next spot of interest would, I mean, it's tough because I had just gone over these guys as guys to play. But honestly, from the bats end, I think you have to decide, and you can just play lineups with both. I think you could stack up the Tigers, and I think you can stack up the Royals, taking on Ronaldo Lopez and Trevor Williams. Not to contradict myself, but we're looking at the Sierra on the slate, and, the worst guys on the slate, and those guys are really standing out. And the only guy worse than them, but only with a 6 innings pitch sample size, is Carlos Hernandez taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I just have zero interest in stacking these Pirates right now. They've been very bad. They don't have a high implied run total. And I would much rather stack up a team like the White Sox. Really, I would promote the White Sox. Sorry to ramble. I'm just trying to break this down for you guys. Really what it comes down to probably for my next stack is I'm going to go ahead and stack against Michael Fulmer. I'm going to stack against Michael Fulmer with the Chicago White Sox because they provide the talent, they have the power. So I do think the Detroit and the Kansas City Royals stacks are valid, and I definitely will have some of them. But I would rather stack up the. I would rather probably play those pitchers and pay it for Coors bats is what I'm getting at. The dynamic of the slate, I'd probably rather pay for down one of those guys and get Coors bats on my lineups, and then stack up these White Sox if I'm trying to be contrarian. And Michael Fulmer, you can see across the board, he's got a 40.2% hard hit rate, an 8.6 walk rate. Not really good at anything outside of the ground ball and fly ball is decent, and that's the same way he is in the splits. A lot of hard contact, the ground ball and fly balls, but when you're giving up that hard contact against a lineup that can slug, you might find yourself with some issues. And against left-handed hitters, he's very, very, very bad. I can tell you right now, I know who my home run call of the day is going to be at the end of this video, and it's going to be a lefty against Michael Fulmer. So we'll get there when we get there. But lefties against Michael Fulmer is a thing. And when looking at this lineup today, you don't have interest in everyone really because I'd said he's not good against righties, but the lefties primarily are your top priority. So Yohan Moncada, Yasmani Grandal, Nomar Mazara at the bottom of the lineup, and then Tim Anderson, Jose Abreu, Eloy Jimenez, Edwin Encarnacion, all these righties with power you still have to have interest in because he still gives up slugging against righties. Even though the ground ball and the fly ball stuff's good, when you're taking on a lineup like this that can really slug, good luck keeping the ball on the ground to guys like Jose Abreu, Eloy Jimenez, and Edwin Encarnacion. That's all I have to say. A lot of power in that lineup. And yeah, I mean, that would be my last spot as far as stacking. I really think we've gone ahead and broken down pretty much every spot in the slate. Though I will have one more spot for you guys before we go, and that's going to be against Justice Sheffield. It's going to be these Arizona Diamondbacks. They have been very bad. I think this is a contrarian stack, and I do think it's one I do have interest in, surprisingly, because for most of the year, I've just been going ahead and saying, don't play the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're terrible. But in this particular case, I actually do think you can target... I think you could target some Justice Sheffield, target some Arizona bats. And we're looking at Sheffield's numbers. He gives a 440 slugging against right-handed hitting. It's below average across the board. He has a 20.6% K rate to righties. And then against lefties, it's a lot better. So it's the right-handed bats that we want to target. But I think that there are some righties that are cheap that we can target and that mash left-handed pitching. So most notably, Tim LeCastro at the top of the lineup. Christian Walker is a big-time option. He crushes lefties. Nick Ahmed, great option. Wyatt Matheson can play him. And then Carson Kelly crushes lefties as a catcher, and he fills in that catcher spot for you. So I do think that the Arizona Diamondbacks are actually a good stack today. A good, B stack to fit in some pitching and fit up some elite hitters in your other stack. And they would be my last option. So I actually, would promote these Diamondbacks today. Probably the first time I have all year, but definitely have to have some interest in the Diamondbacks. So with that being said, that's pretty much my breakdown of today's slate. Quick little overview of what I have gone over. Let's see. Trevor Williams, I think, is a pitching option on the cheap end, taking on these Kansas City Royals today. It's not pretty, but he's cheap and he's an option. And then you could play Carlos Hernandez, who's a guy I didn't even get into against these Pittsburgh Pirates, just because they're bad. But that's very risky, and that's why I didn't get into that. That's playing with fire there, but it's an option. Ronaldo Lopez, I definitely think is a good option taking on these Detroit Tigers. It's just a matchup thing. His numbers are less than impressive, but he has shown some upside in the past of strikeouts when he gets the opportunity against a bad team, and I think this is a good opportunity for him to show that strikeout upside. So, guy, you can throw him in. I like the Chicago White Sox, the guys with power. Really, this lineup's just stacked, to be honest. So anyone you can fit in, but preferably lefty. So your top priorities are Yoan Moncada and Yasmani Grandal at the top of the order. This Milwaukee Brewers team definitely has been striking out a lot. So I had mentioned playing some Kyle Hendricks, even though he's not really an elite strikeout pitcher and he's not really a guy we want to target a lot in daily fantasy sports. He finds himself in a unique situation where he's facing a team with a ton of strikeouts, so that low strikeout rate might get a bump today. So got to have interest in. I had mentioned Julio Urias taking on these Houston Astros. However, the Astros really don't strike out, so it's his numbers that's making me promote him, but I don't really think I want to go there. Do with that what you will. He's a 9-2. His stuff's good, but they just don't strike out. So it's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. I don't really think I want to go there. Rich Hill's a guy, once again, you have to mention because of the stuff, taking on these Cleveland Indians, but matchup's not the greatest. You'll find that this is a trend as we go along here. Zach Gallen's my number one, 110%. He's my top pitcher on the slate. I think it's going to be obvious. I think he's going to be very chalky. He's going to be very highly owned, but want to make it clear he's my top option, and I do have interest in these righties on this Arizona Diamondbacks taking on Justice Sheffield, most notably Tim LaCastro, Christian Walker, Nick Ahmed, Wyatt Matheson, and Carson Kelly. This Coors Field game, I cannot emphasize it enough. I don't think I'm a genius for saying this, but you need to get in every single Coors bat that you can today. They're going to be popular, but for good reason. And, I had explained the splits. You're going to want every single right-handed hitter in this game. On the Angels side, my top options are Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon, obvious candidates, but they do have a lot of very good options on the cheap end in Justin Upton, Joe Adell, Max Stassi, Luis Rengifo, sorry, and then Albert Pujols. Gotta like those guys today. And on the Colorado Rockies side, Trevor Story and Arenado are just ridiculously good spots. I love those guys today. And you could throw in Kevin Pillar, Matt Kemp, those righties as I had discussed. And then I do think the Cincinnati Reds, this young kid in Tejay Antone, has broken out. He looks good. I think he's legitimate, and I do think he could play him. It's not the most ideal matchup taken on these Cardinals, but we had talked about all this other pitching, and it's really just Zach Gallen and then the rest of the slate. So I think that he's a valid option. So yeah, that's my overall breakdown of today's slate, guys. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified for future videos. If you're enjoying the content, stick around. I'll be here all season long, break down these MLB DFS slates, and I think I'm going to give you guys some really good content to help you become better MLB DFS players, as well as help your lineups on a regular basis. Go ahead and check out all of the KJK DFS links in the description, all sorts of stuff down there, my MLB packages, my merch store, my social media, the list goes on and on. Check all that stuff out. I appreciate you guys tuning in today. And then, I almost left you without my homework call today. We can't forget that. So let's go ahead before I sign off. My homework call today, I had mentioned it's going to be a lefty taking on the Detroit Tigers, and it is going to be Yoan Moncada. I could go ahead and just pick a Coors Field bat, and that would be the easiest way. Honestly, I'd probably just pick Anthony Rendon, Nolan Arenado, or Trevor Story. Probably all go deep, but I had mentioned the splits, and I really think Yoan Moncada is in a great spot. He's a switch hitter that excels from the left-handed side of the plate against right-handed pitching, and I think Moncada's going deep. And I think I supplied you guys with some good reasoning as to why. A quick little run back to Michael Fulmer. His splits against lefties. He's got a 464 slugging, 338 WOBA. Not good, very bad. Get some of Yoan Moncada in your lineups today. Love the play. That's all from me today, guys. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. I wish you all the best of luck tonight, and have a good one.